Hello and welcome to this episode of the Restless Entertainment Questions and Answers edition. I'm Marina Hyde.
I'm Richard Osman.
Hello, Richard.
Hello there. So many great questions to get through today.
There are some really good ones. I have to say, I am excited for this first one, which is about...
Are we going to go straight in?
Oh, no, we don't have to.
Are we going to go straight in, are we?
Okay, come on.
So
do some any other business. Do whatever you want.
People walking their dogs going, do you think they like each other? Actually, I listened... Do you know what? I listened this week. I went straight into the questions. It was actually quite frosty.
There was something in the air and
I don't know what it was.
Wasn't chemistry.
Yeah.
Now, listen, this is from John and Sue's winners of Pointless Series 7, Episode 63, Richard.
Oh, John and Sue's.
Yes. Now, they would like to know how real the marriages are in shows like Married at First Sight et al. Having been through this process twice between us. Oh, I see. With the weddings. Sorry, I thought it meant like they'd been twice on this on Married at First Sight. Sorry. Having been through this process twice between us, that's
Do they mean
the
they're
standard marriage process.
But are they married to each other? Because then that's just one. They just got married to each other. So that's showing off.
You would say it's 3 times between.
We've been through this twice. You go, yeah, that's because you're a couple. But maybe they've both been through it twice, or maybe they're not a couple.
Maybe what they mean is 4 times, because 3 times, because once each and then once together.
John and Sue, respectfully, how on earth did you win? This is because this is twice. But right, listen, John and Sue, will you get back in touch and tell us, have you both been married twice? In which case you've been through it 4 times between you, or have you just been married to each other? In which case you can't say we've been through this twice.
Surely they've been through it 3 times between them if they've been married to each other. If they've been married once before and then to each other, because then the third one counts as just.
You're absolutely right.
Sorry, if I can just corral both of us back.
I was going to say, I thought,
question.
Do you know what we did so well getting on to the first question so quickly?
Yeah.
And now look at us.
By the way, we're not even halfway through it.
See you next Tuesday.
Bye. Having been through this process twice between us, citation needed, we know there's lots of wedding admin, like having your notice of marriage on display in your local registry office, etc. And you also can't get divorced without having been married for a year, which surely no one would agree to be married for a TV show. So how real are marriages?
It's nice to have a simple answer to a simple question. They are not real. They're just not, because of course they're not. It can't be legally binding. You can't just turn up and meet someone you haven't met for lots of the reasons that you say turning up on the day to marry a stranger is not legally binding. England and Australia, you must give notice to the registry office, as you say, at least 28 days before, which of course they don't here. So in fact, each participant in Married at First Sight, they embark on a commitment ceremony with a wedding celebrant.
Oh, please. I've done that. Festivals. I mean, that's nothing. You can do that with anyone.
Yeah, it's essentially like the Avalon Field at Glastonbury. So yeah, they're not real. The brides and grooms in Married at First Sight, they get to write a booklet to producers what their ideal wedding would be like. Oh my God, that's grim. Ever since I was a young girl, I've dreamed of my wedding, and now I get to write it in a producer who literally doesn't care.
Yeah, but also when I was a little girl, surely I didn't dream of just for an appearance fee getting married on reality television. So...
To an awful Australian man.
So we're all making compromises here.
But also, I didn't dream of a wedding which I would then write down, and then a producer would go, so we're not going to be doing that.
You can have your hair and makeup, and the rest is up to us.
Oh, you're not having it how you want it. You don't get a lot of say. So no, of course they're not legal. I mean, listen, which takes nothing away from Married at First Sight, which is one of the great pieces of art of the 21st century. But
oh my God.
Do you not think?
No, I don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Not even Married at First Sight Australia? Not even...
Okay, fine. All right, you can have one for the Louvre, and that's it.
Yeah, MAFSA. Not even MAFSA. So it's one of we've talked before, I'm sure, about how anyone who has any interest in human psychology, there are certain shows which just are extraordinary to watch. Below Deck for me is the thing that tells me about the human condition, and Married at First Sight I think tells you unusual stories that you wouldn't dream up yourself. So it has a lot to commend it, but no, it is not unfortunately part of the sacred ritual of marriage, which we know and understand and hold sacrosanct. Who would have thought?
I hope, John and Suze, that answers your communal question.
But do you think, I mean, they must be married. They must be. If they came on Pointless together, there's lots of ways to come on Pointless, right? You can be, brother and sister, mother and son. You can be, boss and, employee. But for them to have written in together as well, they must be married. And so they've been through it. They've been through it twice between them.
Why don't you go into your big old Pointless archive and blow the dust off Series 7, Episode 63, and look in your little producer's
Do you know what?
backpack.
I'm going to text now. I'm going to text the Pointless producer, see if I can get that information before the end of the episode.
Very good.
I'll do that. A question for you, Marina, hopefully with less controversy. Jeffrey Esdale asks, what are the consequences for a journalist when they stray into questions that are not on topic for a press junket? And that mysterious voice off camera is heard to say, we're going to have to leave it there, thanks. Marina, have you ever been blacklisted? I bet she has been. Or shut out for asking too close to the bone question?
Okay. That's a very good question. Press junkets are when you've got major film studios and they've got a film to promote, they'll sometimes just take out the whole floor of a hotel and they've got all the cast members in different rooms and there's a publicist in each and they've got so many rules. And I'll give you the rules of one prominent film studio, and they have a sort of escalation policy for dealing with journalists who kind of won't stick to the... It's not a script, but you're told you can't ask about this, you can't ask about their relationship, you can't ask about... There are many things that are sort of prescribed subjects, okay? So number one, a polite request in person to move away from the topic that was not agreed upon. Number two, if the journalist persists, even if time remains, the interview may be abruptly cut short to prevent further discussion of sensitive topics. In the case of a case of a repeat offence or a wildly inappropriate question, the journalist may be unofficially labelled as difficult. Now, this does happen where you just can't get interviews with people. So, and that limits your access to all high-profile interviews, advanced screenings, press materials. They just won't give you any of the advanced
And would
stuff.
that be spread across the different companies as well? Is it like shoplifters in a shopping centre where their picture gets sent to all the shops?
Yeah. Say this
Wow.
So say this is Warner's, it's not, then they may not let you review Warner's films. They may not let you have any advanced materials. You're definitely not allowed to do the interviews. In the most severe cases, the journalist could be officially blacklisted, meaning they're excluded from all future interviews, events, press opportunities, whole companies. This definitely happens. I have been in, I don't really do interviews very much anymore at all. In fact, vanishingly rarely. But when I used to do interviews, and I remember, God, one of the ones I did, this is an example of the Star just saying, don't worry about any of that nonsense, was when it was at The Sun, and it was honestly for like a listings magazine that The Sun briefly ran for London. And I interviewed Warren Beatty. It was so like disproportionate. Wow. I was like, I used to wear my hair in sort of bunches and pink ribbons. I was honestly 23 or something. I was interviewing Warren Beatty. I did it at the Dorchester, somewhere like that. And I was going somewhere later, and my husband said, "Oh, I'll just wait in the lobby for you anyway." No, it was.
I'd wait if Warren Beatty was there.
Anyway, so Warren Beatty was brilliant. Obviously, a proper star. And I was a huge film fan, so it was amazing. The movie at the time was called Bulworth, very sort of slightly forgettable sort of weird race thing. So I was doing this interview with him, and I was, because I was really young and I just had a load of really stupid cliche questions to ask him. And I was only allowed to ask about Bulworth, a film about kind of race relations, sort of satire on race relations and politics in America. And obviously I just wanted to ask about things like, so is You're So Vain by Carly Simon about you? And the PR was constantly saying, there was this guy in the room trying to stop all of it. But Warren Beatty just had taken a shine to me, not in the classic Warren Beatty sense, sadly. But we were having great fun. It was hilarious. I asked all these questions. I said, because some people say that You're So Vain's about Mick Jagger. He put his hand right over my tape recorder and said, yeah, it's not about Mick. Hilarious. Okay. Then we continued. The PR is really trying to stop the whole thing. And he's saying, no, it's just fun. I'm happy. I'm having fun. So the guy has to just sit there like with the face like a lemon, this PR. And then I was saying, well, I've got to actually go now. And my husband's waiting downstairs. And Warren Beatty was like, why don't you do all your buttons up in a whole different way and say, sorry, I've just been interviewing Warren Beatty. The PR was having an absolute meltdown. And it was all allowed to happen. And I've got some really funny photos of it all somewhere. And I absolutely loved him. I thought he was totally brilliant. He kept saying to me, you're going to end up on television. You're going to be on television. I was like, oh, no, I definitely wouldn't want to do anything like that. He was like, don't worry, thank me later. You're going to be on television. I was like, no, I really won't. But he was such fun. But the PR was having a sort of meltdown, even though the Star was saying, yeah, I don't want to. Oftentimes the Star would just say, I don't want to be involved with these rules. I don't care. They've built a rapport with the interviewer or whatever it is, and they're perfectly happy to talk about these other things. They haven't given a list of prescribed topics, but the PR has just taken it upon themselves to say, this person only wants to talk about racial politics in America. And the answer is, Warren Beatty doesn't just want to talk about that. He'll talk about any old thing.
He'd have had a very different career if that's all he wanted to talk about.
Question for you about writing, Richard,
Yeah.
which, is something I believe you do.
In the middle of it now. Well, not right now. I'm doing the podcast. Imagine if I was even during the podcast, I'd be like, yeah, sorry, Marina, what were you saying?
I back you to be able to do that. Alex McLean would like to ask, what are the roles of an editor and a proofreader when you write a novel? Do they correct errors in grammar, such as failing to use the correct subjunctive tense? Can you get away with just writing a good story without having to focus on the details like this?
I know what you mean, Alex. It can be. Listen, I had a comprehensive school education in the 1980s, so my grammar is terrible. I wouldn't even know what the correct subjunctive tense is. So I just, if you are sitting down writing at the moment, do not worry too much about all of that kind of stuff. Obviously, stuff has to make sense, and if if your grammar is so bad that your sentences are unreadable, then you have an issue. But if you're using that instead of when and various other things, you'll be absolutely fine.
So it sounds like people talk. It's fine.
100% that. 100% that. So the roles of the different people. So your editor has a very, very strong relationship with you, and they're involved in the whole process of selling the book and marketing the book, and they're sort of in charge of all of that. And when you're given a manuscript, they will read the book and essentially tell you if they like it or not. That's the job of an editor. They'll say, these are the bits I liked. Is this character believable, or did this happen in the wrong order? The sort of big picture things is, did I enjoy this book? Essentially, is your editor's job, and is in a position to make suggestions if you want or need suggestions. You can ignore all of them, but it's just having somebody read the book.
Those are the scary notes.
Who loves books and comes back and tells you what worked and what didn't work. There are copy editors and proofreaders, which are different things. So your copy editor is the one who is unbelievably great at, yes, if you're worried about some of your grammar somewhere, they'll say, oh yeah, you can just, if you change it around this way, that would be the grammar. So as I say, if your grammar is so bad or your sentence structure is so bad that your book is unreadable, then your book is unreadable. If you just don't know the correct rules of English grammar and you make the odd mistake here and there, they will absolutely be taken out. So if you're writing a story at the moment, Alex, and it's propulsive and we care about the characters, don't worry about that stuff because it won't go into print without somebody having looked at it. And then a proofreader actually is the very final bit, which is, just making sure that, that all the full stops are where they should be and there isn't a stray. And it's literally like a printing thing, just making sure that, there's nothing wrong. And occasionally books, first editions of books do go out with slight errors in them and become very valuable because of it. But yeah, I would say that, I know a lot of agents and editors get books in that are unreadable because people just can't. There's just no sort of command of how a sentence is structured or how a paragraph is structured or how a story continues. So if we're not talking about that, if we're just talking about, I worry slightly that I'm not entirely sure where the verb should go in this sentence, or, then do not worry about it for a single second. If you're a great writer, Alex, it's because of your characters and your story and the heart you put into it. And if people spot that, someone's job is to make sure that doesn't go into the bookshops without somebody taking care of you and making sure, the things I get, it's always just words in the wrong place. And what you're saying about dialogue is absolutely right, Marina. Sometimes a copy editor will change dialogue because it's not grammatical, and they're going, oh no, that's absolutely supposed to not be grammatical. That's the way that character talks. Yeah, that character has an absolute different use. Like most of us do. When we speak, we are ungrammatical when we speak, and that's how I like my characters to be. But yeah, by and large, the nuts and bolts of the thing, I would just don't worry about it. Just get on with your story, get on with writing the stuff, get on with your characters, and leave all that till the end. And if people love the story, there will be people to help you with all that stuff.
I totally agree. I think colloquial grammar definitely.
Yeah.
And often I ask, I really don't want it corrected in a column because writing it in a certain way can make the point sound particularly wanky, depending on what's come before or perhaps after. Whereas just writing it in a way that how you might speak it diffuses all that, and you can get away with saying many different things that otherwise would sound not quite right. But I always want it to stay. I always feel like I know the grammar, but I want it to stay like this because it works much better like this. Yeah,
I often do that. If something is funnier if it is written in a way where you mess about with the grammar, or occasionally you'll repeat a word for comic effect. And one thing that all copy editors will always do is, you've repeated a word in that paragraph, which can be incredibly useful. By and large, you don't. But
I never felt Dan Brown's copy editors ever said that to him. I remember reading one Dan Brown paragraph and the same adjective was used on a sleeve 3 times in 10 lines. And I just remember thinking, guys, did anyone have a quick look at this?
But it is, story, character, writing. Every agent and every publisher you would ever send a book to, they don't care what your grammar is. If you've got a story that makes them keep turning the pages, that's all they care about, and everything else can be dealt with. If you don't have those things, no one can fix it. No one's going to be able to fix that stuff, but they can definitely fix all that. If, like me, you grew up in an era where no one really taught you what an adverb was, then you know it in your head what it is. And if there's the odd error here and there, someone will absolutely clear that up for you. This episode is brought to you by Sky, where you can watch unmissable shows, including the thrilling new Sky original series, The Day of the Jackal, starring Academy Award winner Eddie Redmayne and BAFTA Award winner Lashana Lynch.
She is terrific. It's based on Frederick Forsyth's acclaimed novel, The Day of the Jackal. The series is a contemporary reimagining of the classic thriller that sees an unrivaled lone assassin, the Jackal.
It's his day.
Take on one last job, putting his secret life in extreme jeopardy. He's under relentless global pursuit from secret agent Bianca. The hunter has become the hunted.
Oh, man, I hate it when that happens. It's one of my absolute favourite books, The Day of the Jackal. It is brilliant, and I can't wait to see these two do it as well. The book itself, and you can see from the trailer as well, it's taut, it's propulsive, it's got everything you'd want in a great thriller.
That's right. Lashana Lynch, who, by the way, is superb in every single thing she does, plays a British intelligence officer, again, who won't stop until she has taken the Jackal down.
Eddie Redmayne plays the elusive assassin, the Jackal. Can't be that elusive if I know that Eddie Redmayne is playing him. I could work out where Eddie Redmayne is if I had to.
It's less of a good movie, though, is it? Just you sitting there with your phone trying to work out where Eddie Redmayne is.
Yeah.
It's done.
He's in Soho. But it's a real belter, and these two, I think, are going to do it justice.
Espionage, subterfuge, violence, they will stop at nothing to achieve their goals. Watch the new Sky original series, The Day of the Jackal, on Sky now. This is our 100th episode, everybody.
Wow. If this was a TV show, we'd be doing a celebrity special. That's what this would be. We'd both be celebrities instead of us. Anyway, congratulations.
Congratulations to you, Richard.
Wow.
It's been a ball.
And to celebrate our 100th episode, shall we do a question about The Rock?
Yes, please.
Yeah, friend of the podcast. Danny Watts. Good name, Danny. Is The Rock's Hollywood career over with Red One flopping on opening weekend?
First of all, I don't necessarily think it has flopped, but Red One is a movie that has been made by Amazon, but they've put it in theatres. The Rock is like a North Pole security guard who has to, I think, get Chris Evans, who's a mercenary, because Santa's been kidnapped, and he has to get him and Chris Evans have to find him. They're trying to set up.
That's a hell of an elevator pitch, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're trying to set it up as a sort of new comedy action franchise, right? Seasonal, clearly. Now, the issue with this movie is the cost. By the way, this opening weekend was 34 million. That is fine. That's really quite good for a Christmas action comedy. There's lots of reasons that Christmas movies are slightly a hard sell. That in Asia, not that people aren't Christian. It's not such a big thing. So you're already limiting, even in France and in Spain and Italy and places like that. Like Father Christmas himself is not such a big thing.
What?
Yeah, no, I know. Well,
in Spain, Father Christmas not so much.
Their loss.
Yeah, isn't it just?
And so the problem with this movie is that it cost something like, I think it cost 253 million without marketing and distribution.
Wow.
Okay, this is nuts, right? This is completely ridiculous. The Rock got 50 million of that because, remember, we've talked about this before, when things are put on streaming, you have to say to stars, oh, you're not going to get any sort of performance-based box office returns, so we'll just give you a massive fee up front. So he got 50 million, right? It's meant for streaming. They then decide they're going to put it in theatres. At that point, they should have said, you're going to have to take less because you're going to get some.
Once they put in the theatres, yeah, they could have.
This is what they did, by the way, with something like Beetlejuice, which I think was budgeted to say it was about 150 million, and they were going to put it just on streaming because it makes sense for that. And then they said, actually, no, we're going to put it in theatres. It's made a huge amount of money. It's done really well, but they brought the budget down at that point to 100 million, right? Because things are changing, and you don't have to pay so much in star salaries because you can do more performance rated. So it's actually this is a fine opening figure for this kind of thing, okay? But it cost at least 100 million too much, right? The Rock has got special rock maths, by the way, though. He'll tell you that this is,
maths.
He's got all kinds of ways of saying that movies that haven't done as well as they should have done that he is in are actually runaway successes. So with Black Adam, he had to say, this is actually the biggest opening weekend of my career, guys. And it was. But the film was very expensive and it didn't even make back its money. So it was actually a flop.
Everyone who works in TV does that with ratings all the time. They go, great news in the 16 to 34 demographic. And you think,
I see.
Did you get bad ratings?
Yeah. Rock movies, in my view, and the view, by the way, after this, an increasing view of Hollywood executives, certainly, is if they cost about 120 million, that's great, okay? And you can, if you're putting them in theatres, things like all of the Jumanji things he's been in, like that, those are making really good money, and they're making sort of 3 or 4 times what they cost, and they're doing well. If you're spending basically $250 million, $250 million on something without marketing.
So $500 million with marketing.
It's just mad. It needs to be so enormous, this thing, to make it work. So it doesn't work. But what you'll notice about The Rock is that special Rock maths is that The Rock behaves like the biggest movie star in the world. Okay. And actually, I know you're going to just really roll your eyes at this. I was, for reasons that are not relevant to this podcast, I was looking back over that. There's a really good biography of Charles de Gaulle by Julian Jackson. And I know, this is very me. Sorry.
Where's this going?
Okay, right. Okay. Charles
How
de Gaulle.
do you have time to read biographies of Charles de Gaulle?
It's 900 pages. It's huge. But it's brilliant, by the way. Sorry.
I mean,
Charles
you must
de Gaulle
be a
recommendation
quick reader.
in an item about The Rock. Right, okay. But so Charles de Gaulle is in exile in the Second World War. He's got basically a borrowed office.
God, don't tell me everything because I want to read it.
Yeah, okay, spoiler alert. He's got a borrowed office and he looks down on Churchill, Stalin, Roosevelt, all of them. And Julian Jackson says, behaving like a great power was de Gaulle's chief means of becoming one, okay? The Rock is like Charles de Gaulle in the Second World War, but he's not actually going to go and be president of France afterwards, okay? The Rock just acts like he's the biggest movie star in the world, and he's basically also got a borrowed office in London and, isn't bigger than lots of other stars, but it's the way he acts.
If he hears this, if The Rock hears this, and I know he listens, then he will run for president of France. He'll say,
well, he's talked about running for the president of the US. How many times?
How dare you tell me I can't be president of France? The Rock could be president of France. Le Rock.
A Certain Idea of the United States. It's called A Certain Idea of France, by the way, the brilliant Charles de Gaulle biography that's 900 pages.
A Certain Idea of France. Yeah. And you've read that. Where is that in your...
I've read that. I've read it, Richard.
Where is that on your bookshelf system?
It's in political biography. Sorry if it's confusing.
Would it be pre-war or post-war? Because it feels like it's during the war.
Those aren't. It's only novels that are divided pre and post-war.
Do you know what? I'm an idiot.
I can't get back into that.
What an absolute imbecile I am. So stupid of me.
I can't get back into that. Anyway. That's my. The Rock is like Charles de Gaulle, but is not going to become president of the United States either, or president of France. He is not the biggest movie star in the world, but he acts like he is, and he can't. He's on fumes now. He can't keep doing that. He's going to have to make cheaper movies that are actually at his sweet spot, which is about 120 million. And he's great at that price.
Which was also Charles de Gaulle's sweet spot, wasn't it?
Which is also his sweet spot, yeah.
120 million movies. Danny, thank you so much for your Charles de Gaulle question there. I hope it was answered for you. I have news.
Breaking.
Breaking news.
Why don't we have a ticker on this? I'd love it if we did.
John and Suze are married to each other.
Congratulations, guys.
John and Sue, congratulations. So,
belatedly.
Having gone through this process ourselves. Twice.
There are various possibilities that John and Suze count their marriage as their one marriage. It's their first marriage, but they count it as...
Well, they've both been through it.
Yeah. Like Bertrand Russell said, the wife and husband, in their private lives, they must be free. I want to bring him in now after Charles de Gaulle.
Bertrand Russell?
Bertrand Russell.
What did you say that in? Was it in Con Air?
It's in Con Air.
Yeah. So there we go. They're married to each other and they're counting that as 2 experiences of it. It's an unusual way of saying it. We've been through that experience twice.
Yeah, so that's probably the most discountable option, okay?
So maybe they've both been married once before.
Yeah.
In which case they've been through it 3 times.
3 times.
3 times, yes, okay. So John and Suze, God bless you and thank you, but...
Richard's corrected your question for you.
You do Charles de Gaulle and Bertrand Russell, I do marriage maths. We know that.
Matthew Bell has a question, Richard, which would be good for you. When presenters like Anton Deck, Tess and Claudia, Stephen and Holly are announcing who is going home, they often say, in no particular order. But is there a pre-produced particular order they are given so that cameras are best cued and vision mixers are not taken by surprise?
Yeah, it's one of the tropes of modern reality TV in no particular order. Obviously, in the studio, everyone knows the order that they are being read out in, because as Matthew quite rightly says, cameras need to know where they are, lighting needs to know where they are. So everyone in the gallery, everyone in the production team knows exactly the order they're being read out in. When they say in no particular order, the point they're making there is we are not giving you an indication of how the votes are going. So we're not reading out the person who got the most votes, because otherwise you would soon see with a show like I'm a Celebrity or Strictly that the same person was being read out first every single time, because by and large, the viewer votes don't change particularly. The favourites are the favourites. And so they can't do that. They couldn't say that Chris was getting the most votes on Strictly, and I'm not saying he is, because I don't know that. But if he was being read out first every time, you'd slightly go, oh, okay, we don't need to watch this. And so by and large, they produce that order. Absolutely. If I have a special skill in life, it is when we watch Strictly, when Ingrid and I watch Strictly, every single dance, she will say, oh, they're having trouble in hold. They're amazing when they're apart. They're in trouble in hold, and her neck is not where it should be. And the judges will go, "You're not great in hold. The neck is not where it should be." Like every single dance, she absolutely knows it. But the one thing I can do is when they say in no particular order, the first couple to be saved is, I always say they're going to say, I'll always say, oh, they're going to say JB first. Yeah. And it always is. The producer's job is, which order do we do this in? And it's always something like, oh, who had a slightly hard week, or whose parents are in there, or so it's just, what's the story? What's the most interesting story? Who do we leave to last? All those things. So I can always work out the order in which they read people in, and if I get it wrong, it's because that person's in the bottom two. If I go, oh, they're going to say Montel and Johannes first, and when they don't say it first, I go, oh no, that's bad news for Montel. She's in the bottom two.
It's a shame you can't do in-game betting, like just a split second, like who's going to be next, like
who they do next,
some Malaysian betting syndicate, betting on who's going to be in no particular order.
So everyone in the studio knows they say in no particular order, just so you don't know who's being voted, and and then you can leave people to the end to make it them as exciting as possible. The one thing with Strictly, sometimes they don't do it exactly the order I would do it, because the dance off sometimes has to be in a particular order, like someone has to dance before the other one, because of setting and staging and what have you, and so sometimes the person they would love to leave to the end, they have to eliminate first. But that's a very technical point. But no, no particular order is it's a way of sort of producing, and it's a way of kind of going, oh, your favourite might be in jeopardy because look, they were left right to the end, and sometimes it is, if someone has had a hard day in camp on I'm a Celebrity, you can just say the first person, you can save them straight away just so they can relax. And, if someone feels like people have been voting for them all the time, say you have Dean and I'm a Celebrity, and he's been voted for all the time. On this particular occasion, he has not been voted for. You have two choices. One is Dean having a hard time? Let's tell him straight away he hasn't been voted for, and that's nice for him. Or is Dean taking this incredibly well? Let's leave him right to the very end. Yeah. And we do a big reveal that he's not. Yeah, exactly. So it's a producer's thing of, they know how everyone is feeling in camp or on the rehearsals for Strictly, and so they get to reward people in certain ways, and it's a storytelling thing.
It's playing God, isn't it, Richard? Really?
Well, it's not, because the alternative is you do it in a particular order, and the only order you could do it in really is order of popularity, and then you give away who's won your show in week 3. Marina, Jim Hardwick asks, I wonder what is the reason for +1 channels such as Channel 4 or the Food Network? Are they still relevant in a streaming world? What are the benefits for the channel in having one?
Oh, well, this is quite a quick answer, but it's amazing. What we always say to people quite often on this podcast is, just because of the way you watch television, it's most likely different to the way lots of other people watch television. And some people just use broadcast linear TV, and a lot of people just use broadcast linear TV because of the familiarity, and people, about 10 to 15% of overall viewing of a channel will be on +1 still, which is kind of wild, because it's like a very, very inefficient partial on-demand streaming service. But people just think, hang on, I want to watch Channel 4 News or whatever it is, and I will watch it. It's
a real entry drug for streaming services. Just something that it's still on the EPG, but you can actually time delay something by an hour.
And you can slightly sit back and just let the channel happen to you, but it fits in better with your day. And a lot of people also miss the start of programs and just think, I'll come back in in 40 minutes.
Yeah, exactly right. Or you're watching something else and you just go, oh, Bake Off is on, because Bake Off essentially is on at 8 and 9.
Yeah.
If you want to watch on +1, of course it's on all the time as well. Yes. But if that's not the world you live in, we always used to get annoyed with when Pointless and The Chase were head to head every single day, which they still are, and it was always very, very close in ratings between them. But the Chase's ratings always included the +1 channel, and the BBC were never allowed to have a +1 channel. I can't remember why, but there were lots of reasons why the BBC couldn't have one, and still don't. Whereas ITV did, so they were getting like an extra kind of 500,000 that we weren't allowed to get. And so some days they beat us, but not head to head and all that kind of stuff. But you're absolutely right about the way people watch TV. My mum, we were down with my mum the other day. My mum loves NCIS, right? It's her absolute favourite show, and all the different ones she was taking me through. I'm not sure about NCIS Cuba, but I do like NCIS. Actually, NCIS New Orleans is my least favourite, but I really, really like NCIS Los Angeles. And I'm like, okay. But she says, but the trouble is I tape them. So wherever they are, I get them, I tape record them, which is, you think, again, that's how a lot of people do things. And she goes, but they're in different places at different times. So I watch them all completely out of order. And so I never know what series I'm on. I said, you just go on Amazon, you could buy like the whole series of like NCIS LA if that's your favorite. She goes, oh, no, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't want to do that. So I put it on screen. I said, it's £7 for 24 episodes. Like the first series, it's £7 for 24 episodes. And she was like, oh, I mean, I could, I suppose. I said, well, if you're watching everything out of order, and do you like that? She goes, no, I find it very confusing. I go, so would you like to watch the whole of the first season of NCIS?
I can make this happen
in order, because it is the market has found a way for you to be able to do that. And so she thought that was the craziest thing she's ever heard. And she is far and away of her friends, she is the most tech savvy.
Yeah.
She is the most streaming literate of any of her friends, and even she's worked a way that she can tape every single episode of it, but not a way that she could watch them in order. And this idea she could pay £7 for 24 episodes of NCIS, she was like, do you know what, I am going to treat myself. And I'm like, yeah, you treat yourself.
I know. I mean, I was talking
episodes.
to my parents about like Ludwig when I'm saying, have you finished it yet? Because obviously the BBC they put, which is the
David Mitchell thing,
David Mitchell and Anna Maxwell Martin detective series, and my mum said, oh no, I mean we were watching them on the Sundays. I said, but you can watch them all. They're all there now. And she said, no, we'll just watch them on the Sundays, thanks. It's like, okay, well, I won't talk to you about what happens at the end.
But that's in the same way that I like to wake up in the morning and watch an episode of Frasier, which is permanently available to me on all four, I'm sure. But I quite like the fact that it's just on. And then sometimes if I sort of sleep in, I can watch it on +1.
Yeah, like the decision to have been made for me.
Yeah.
Like one of those restaurants you go to and the menu is just like, it's a tasting menu, you just have to have it. Hooray, I'm really happy.
That I don't like.
Oh, don't you?
Well, there's so much food I don't like.
choice being taken away.
But there's loads of TV I like. Yeah, choice in TV, but food, no, come on. I really just, no, I have very specific needs.
And on that bombshell... We will see you next Tuesday.
We'll see you next Tuesday. Don't forget, Royal Albert Hall is the 4th of December. We are so we do one more episode before that happens. But that may well break us. So it might be might be one of our last ever episodes.
Tune in next week to find out.
Well, next Tuesday we won't have done it yet. We'll just be even more terrified.
Yeah.
But yes.
Tune in to hear us gibber next Tuesday.
Yeah. See you next Tuesday.
Bye bye.